everybody. I hope everyone's on. Again, if you've just joined us, please take a second. If you haven't renamed to your full name and to your organization, please go to your picture and click on the three dots and go to rename. And you can put in your full name and your organization. That would be great. So we're going to kick it off very quickly. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are throughout the world. My name is Michael Victor, and I'm the head of communications and knowledge management at the International Livestock Research Institute. In behalf of ILRI and the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, with support from the Global Alliance on Climate Smart Agriculture, we welcome you to this important dialogue on embracing change and harnessing diversity, the roles of livestock in future food systems. This is part of the United Nations Food System Summit dialogue and will be an important multi-stakeholder and inclusive input into the process. Before we start, we have a really nice poem and vision for the future of how the role of livestock in healthy food systems from Ms. Namakolo Kovics, a researcher at the International Food Policy Research Institute. She is also a United Nations Food Systems Summit champion, as well as one of the co-leads on the action track to a shift to sustainable consumption patterns. So we'll just play that while everyone's kind of joining in. Let me get that teed up, and hope you enjoy this.
My name is Namakolo Kovic. I'm a senior research coordinator at the International Food Policy Research Institute. I work on the Agriculture for Nutrition and Health program in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. When I think about livestock and sustainability, what comes to mind is issues around people's livelihoods in Africa that depend on livestock, and that we need to find answers to make sure that sustainability is attained, but that at the same time, we do not lose those livelihoods for people who actually depend on them. I come from an area where such is the situation, and I would really want to see a win-win situation for livestock in the communities that I come from. So I will read my poem called I Am Your Food System for You to Transform. This poem was written in honor of the current ongoing UN Food Systems Summit, specifically because it will require different stakeholders to do their part for our food systems to transform in such a way that we can have win-win situations across the entire food system for all to benefit without leaving anyone behind. I am your food system for you to transform. For you to thrive, I must transform. But transforming I am in what direction? And transforming I can in the direction that you take. I am your food system for you to transform. But together, you must work. Together far and wide. So many components I have, so together you must work. I am your food system for you to transform. But together you must work. Or different paths my components will take. Different paths to no good I will transform. I am your food system for you to transform. Will humanity fight one another? Will humanity together transform me? What direction together for planet and humanity to save? I am your food system for you to transform. Transform for affordable food, nutritious and safe. Transform for nutrition and health. Transform for humanity and earth to serve. I am your food system for you to transform. Thank you.
Excellent. That was a really wonderful poem by Dr. Namankulo, really showing how we can create our own paths and really kind of, it's in our hands to change both individually and collectively. So really great message there. And with that, I would like to welcome you and ask you to quickly, if everyone can open up their camera before we start. We just want to have everyone show themselves so we get to see everybody, and everyone again gets to be able to be part of this and say hello to everybody. You can go to view and put yourself onto gallery view. You can look up and say hello to somebody, or look to the left and say hello to somebody. You can wave, just to show everybody that everyone is on here. It's a very inclusive, very diverse group, and it's really good for people to see themselves and see who they're talking to for the rest of the day, for the rest of the afternoon, because this is going to be a dialogue. So just take that sign. And with that, again, you can close your camera now, make sure that your microphone is off, and we're just going to take you through a quick introduction. I'm going to put on my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen all right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Michael, it's
okay.
good.
Thank you. Excellent. So just before we start, we have a couple of technical tips. And with the technical tips, I think most people are very aware of these, but it's good to remember. Again, as we've said before, put your full name and your organization into your for your name, and you do that by looking at, going to your own photograph and clicking on the 3 dots and going to rename. There will be interpretation provided in Spanish and French, and you should be able to go to the More section and see interpretation for that. So if you need interpretation into Spanish or French, you should be able to see that. We will be having a Menti at the end to kind of re-look at the survey that we took before the meeting today. And I will put that Menti survey number into the chat box as we go. But if everyone hasn't used Mentimeter before, you can either download it on your phone, or you can just go to mentimeter.com to get it. Again, make sure your microphone is off when not speaking, and have your video on when you speak. If you can't hear or see, or there's something wrong, sometimes it's good just to restart Zoom or close other programs. We'll be doing a lot in the chat function today, so please post comments or questions that you have during the plenary discussions. We won't be answering the questions necessarily during this first plenary discussion, but it's good to have a chat, and again, start the dialogue off in the chat section. Just to let you know that the plenary sessions, both now and at the end, will be recorded. But during the dialogue, the discussion groups themselves, those will not be recorded, and we will be using Chatham House rules. So what individuals say will not be attributed, but can be documented. So we won't be attributing anything that you say, but if you have a great idea, an action point, then that will go in there. Just really briefly, the initial survey, we got 52 out of about 100 people, so that's not bad, 50%. And again, I think what you see here is a great diversity of people that are coming. So we have, again, of course, a lot from government and national institutions, a lot from international organizations, but it was really nice to see that we have quite a few from different, from the private sector, from the donor and financial institutions, and quite a few from what you would call small, medium enterprises, or from artisans themselves. So again, a great diversity of people here, and I think that will really help for a very inclusive and interesting discussion. Just really quickly, we did ask you to give your reaction to a number of statements, and these statements will form the basis for the discussion groups as well. And as you'll see, I think there's a lot of people definitely agreed that livestock can play an important part within food systems if it's sustainable, and if it changes, to make sure that it's sustainable and equitable. And you'll see that throughout the questions. There's strong agreement or somewhat agree, quite a few neutral, very little strongly disagree, but there is some there, and that's also good. There's a diversity here. We don't see everybody in one area, but we do see a diversity here, so that's quite useful. Just really quickly, with the agenda, we're having the welcome right now. We'll have some opening remarks, and then again, to get us kind of in the mood, some perspectives, some visions for the roles of livestock in sustainable food systems from 3 different perspectives. We'll then jump into the discussion groups for 60 minutes and really allow everyone to discuss and have a great conversation. We'll have a 5-minute break, but do come back after that, because we're going to have a very interactive plenary session to synthesize the issues, the actions, and the points of divergence. And then we'll have a quick closing. If you're tweeting, it's great. Please use these hashtags that you see here: Why Livestock Matter, the Summit Dialogues, and the handle @FoodSystem. So please do use that. So with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Shirley Tarawali, who is the Assistant Director General at ILRI, as well as the Chair for the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, to provide an introduction to the dialogue. Thank you very much, and over to you, Shirley.
Thanks very much, Michael, and good day and a warm welcome to everybody to this independent food systems dialogue. I'm the dialogue convener, wearing those 2 hats, from ILRI and from the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock. Thank you all for taking time to join us today in what we hope will be not only a stimulating and engaging couple of hours, but will also generate new innovations and solutions for future food systems, as we heard in the poem just now, to transform, because that's why we're here. Food Systems Summit Dialogues are one of many activities going on in support of the UN Food Systems Summit, which will be held in September with a pre-summit in July. And the summit aims to engage, energize, accelerate process towards the 2030 SDG agenda, addressing in particular what needs to change and how. Tangible change to ensure that we have robust future food systems. It aims to draw inputs worldwide. It's been called the People's Summit, and the dialogues process is key, among others, for that. For those of you not aware, there are 3 types of dialogue. There's member state dialogues. Every country has been asked to conduct a dialogue, and so far I think there's around 175 either happened or planned to happen. A few global dialogues by the Secretariat of the Food Systems, and independent dialogues, which is the one we're focused on today. And at the moment, there's well over 360 of those. Now, for livestock, we recognize, as with many sectors, there's a need to change. And what that change looks like towards those ambitious food systems of the future is as diverse as the livestock sector itself. We need to keep both of these, as well as many other dimensions, in mind as we discuss and debate the need for change and the diversity of pathways towards better future food systems. This dialogue gives us a chance to have new conversations that will lead to new solutions, powerful ways that food systems can be stronger, more sustainable, equitable, and so on. Dialogues do have a bit of a process which we tried to follow. A short introductory session, which we're in now. We'll have a few punchy remarks from our guest speakers, touching on food, on environment, on sustainable livestock. And then the main part is the discussion group. And then, as Michael said, we'll have a feedback. We followed the 7 principles of the dialogues, and also stressing the importance of diversity. And Michael just showed you that pie chart where we put a lot of effort into that. We had at registration certainly about 40% of our participants, not from the livestock sector, people from 39 countries, and I think it's about 13 different stakeholder typologies. I believe this ensures that the outcomes that we report will be robust and credible. Not livestock people talking to each other, not non-livestock people talking to each other. But it also means that as you join your discussion group, you will find people with very different perspectives. There might be difficult conversations. You might even find yourself talking to people who trouble you in some way. And you might need to talk about elephants in the room. But that's because we hope that these will lead to new ideas and solutions. Engage and enjoy, be creative. So let me turn to the first of our 4 speakers. I'm very pleased to welcome Ambassador Hans Hugeveen, who is the permanent representative of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to the United Nations organizations in Rome. And he's also co-chair of the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's more than a pleasure and honor for me to speak to this important meeting. And when you look to our world is changing quickly around us. Innovations spring up daily like seedlings in the spring. But this expansion is not without consequences. Despite our progress, more than 700 million people are living in hunger, and the numbers are increasing. 2 billion people don't have access to safe, affordable, and nutritious food. And 1.6 billion people suffer from nutrition-related diseases like obesity. And the dots don't connect. 1/3 of our food production is globally wasted every year. But the children are still hungry. We can produce more food than ever, but biodiversity and amounts of arable land are decreasing. We are destroying our forests. We are losing our biodiversity. And COVID-19 has plunged our world in the biggest crisis of recent history. And we have seen that a virus can derail our supply chains, severely risk our food security and food production, and leave people and communities vulnerable. To speak plainly, the shortcomings of our food system are laid clearly bare. And what a beautiful poem, because the poem is about the need to transform. The poem is about us to transform. And the poem is about action. And thankfully, we have a roadmap for action, and that's Agenda 2030, with its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. If we can achieve them, if we can come closer to their achievement, we can help us end poverty. It can help us to protect our planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. But it are detailed calls for action. They provide a framework, but the action is upon itself. And if there's one time to unite as countries, as organizations, as people on the ground, with the farmers and for the farmers, it's now. That's why we have the United Nations, to show that together we can leave nobody behind in trying to achieve a world without hunger and peace. And of course, it's clearly that we have to do it in a multi-stakeholder approach. And of course, we are now heading to the UN Food System Summit. We are speaking about the food system approach. But what does it say? What does it say really to us for our food systems? And today, I think we are addressing a very important issue, and that's the livestock sector. And often we try to avoid the livestock sector discussing it, because we start directly into the discussion about eating meat or not. But we have to go beyond that discussion. We need a flourishing but sustainable livestock sector. And I know I've spoken 2 weeks ago with the dairy sector. I know that the dairy sector stands ready to make the dairy sector more sustainable. I know from the GASL that we need a discussion to see and to show farmers how they can implement a more sustainable livestock sector. And of course, it's everything about science-based. It's everything about the ownership of countries and regions. But are we not forgetting in our food system approach, when we discuss the food system summit, are we not forgetting our farmers? Because our food system starts with the farmers, the livestock farmers. We need them to involve them much more. We need to give them a central role. Because I spoke about innovations. It's everything about giving them access to innovations and techniques, but it has to be accessible and affordable innovations. When we speak about precision agriculture, how do we reach out to those farmers to give them those possibilities? It's also about soil fertility. It's about the deforestation, but it's also looking to the country needs and the regional needs. There is no single bullet, there is no global solution. We have to focus on the region and the countries. And that's why it's so important that we have a multidimensional approach when it comes to the livestock sector, to make it more sustainable, but also looking to food losses. And I'm also the co-chair of the 12.3 champions. It's a group which focuses on food losses. And there, the World Bank, FAO, and the Netherlands government is working on action on the ground. We're working on a global investment facility to inspire, to attract private investments, public investments together for food losses on the ground at the country level, especially giving farmers the access to markets, but also the farmers to access to better production methods, which can avoid further food losses. And there we have to stand shoulder to shoulder with the private sector, with governments and international organizations. Therefore, it's also important that we have now a sub-working group of the Committee on Agriculture within FAO focusing on the livestock sector. And that subcommittee should reach out a hand to the farmers, because let's give the farmers a more central role in our food system approach. We have adopted in the Committee on Food Security the guidelines for food system and nutrition. And there's also addressing the livestock sector. But there are guidelines, but they are guidelines to help the farmers, to help the whole value chain. Let us make them implementable for the farmers. Let's start with our farmers to give them the possibility, the 550 million farmers worldwide, give them the possibility to increase their production in a climate smart way and make sure that we have platforms to support them, like Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Good day, good evening to all of you, wherever you are today. My name is Eduardo Arce Diaz. I am the manager of the Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, based here in FAO headquarters in Rome. For the Global Agenda, it's a real pleasure to co-organize this independent dialogue. Let me go on with the program, because today we will have three remarkable speakers that will give their visions for the roles of livestock in sustainable food systems from different perspectives. For the environment, we will have Professor Lindiwe Majele-Sibanda, Director and Chair of the African Research University's Alliance Center of Excellence in Sustainable Food Systems, hosted by the University of Pretoria, South Africa. For livestock sustainability, we will have Dr. Jude Capper, Professor of Sustainable Beef and Sheep Production at Harper Adams University, UK. And for food, we will have Chef Daniel Kaplan, Executive in Bogota, Colombia for the Takami Group. To all of you, a warm welcome. Thank you very much for being here with us. Professor Lindy Wee, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. And just to say that it's exciting to be part of a movement, as has been said, that's putting livestock at the center of sustainable development. I'm not going to be speaking for myself. I would like to affiliate with the alliances that I love. First is the Alliance of African Research Universities, where one of the 4 focus areas we are dealing with is African herds, which is livestock. Another alliance that I love very much is the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Thanks to Hans for that opening overview. I am the outgoing co-chair representing the least developed countries that are partners in GASL, and we'll be opening up for calls for my successor who will be taking up that position in the coming month. But one of the things that I really love about the topic for today is embracing change, harnessing diversity, the role of livestock in future sustainable food systems. My grandmother, who raised me on a smallholder mixed farm, would be laughing in her grave if she could peep and see us all congregated to be questioning 1, change, 2, diversity, 3, livestock, 4, the future, and 5, sustainable food systems. Because in her own mind, in her 1 hectare plot in Lower Guero, Zimbabwe, she was very clear that agriculture was about a rainbow revolution. She had all the colors, but most important, when it came to animal source foods, she had her free-ranging chickens that provided the meat and the eggs. She had her goats, which provided us with the meat. She had a dairy cow that provided us with milk and the cottage cheese that she processed with her own hands. It is no wonder when we talk about sustainability, it is very clear in my head that the livestock we are talking about are meant to provide for the soil. They are meant to provide for our health. They are meant to provide for the economy. And that's exactly what sustainability is about: economic, social, and environmental. Now, coming on the environmental side, if I go back to the 5 posters, when we talk about change, clearly we need behavior change, because the science has told us that livestock can be both a problem and a solution, particularly to climate change. And if we're looking at the smallholder mixed farming enterprise I was raised on, the animals were raised on free-ranging pastures. What that means is that with the good grassland management, there was the opportunity to sequester carbon and make sure that the soil is kept nourished and that the carbon is sequestered. We restored soil health, and it still happens, but there's been degradation because of increases in population and shortage of grazing land. So the challenge for researchers are that it can be done, and we now need to go back. But what's interesting about can be done is really the purpose of keeping the livestock. I keep going back to my grandmother, who was very clear on the numbers she needed to nourish the family. We know for sure that the economic incentive is now levering towards quality livestock. If you keep your quality livestock and are managing your grazelands, you can break even when it comes to feeding the environment. Gone are the days where numbers or increased numbers meant more money in the pocket, because we are grading our livestock. They are sold to the auction, not just on a number basis, but on the quality of the livestock that have been produced. On the issue of diversity, I think the bad that people know about in livestock is when they look at industrialized systems. But my smallholder farmers where I was brought up, and the large-scale commercial farms, most of sub-Saharan Africa, are still raising most of the livestock on free-ranging grazing lands. And up to 86% of the feed that these livestock consume is not fit for human consumption, which means there's no competition, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we use management systems that restore the health of the environment and the soils. If I go on to the livestock, if we look at the role they play in nutrition, we are talking about a diversified plate, and with a population of up to 151 million children that are undernourished, most of whom are stunted, it is clear that for most of Africa, there is a shortage of animal source foods as the children are growing up, particularly in the first 5 years of life, but more important for the pregnant women. I don't know of any other source that is easily available and accessible on African soil that can adequately replace this need for nutrition, which is why when we talk about the future, there can be no future without these animal source foods. So therefore, we need a protein revolution. That protein revolution, livestock are at the center of it. We can talk about the new novelty foods, but for most of what we know and still do in Africa, livestock plays a critical issue in providing those animal source foods. Let me go on to the issue of sustainable food systems. The beauty about the new narrative that doesn't talk just about agriculture, but takes us from the farm to the fork or the dining room, is because livestock has a role. I've spoken about the nourishment of the soil. I've spoken about the draft power that the livestock will provide, spoken about the food in terms of the milk, the eggs, the meat, and in some communities, the blood that is provided as nutrients. So I cannot think of a better future than the one I chose when I did my first degree in animal production at the University of Alexandria in Egypt. I had 15 choices, but the protein and the food that I knew from my Zulu background was livestock. And up to now, I'm a strong advocate for climate smart agriculture, sustainable food systems, and livestock production systems that feed the pocket, feed the people, nourish the people, but most important, feed the environment. That's why when we embrace change, harness diversity, the role of livestock is key in any future sustainable food system, particularly when we come to nourishing the young children, nourishing the elderly, but making sure that we have a diversified plate with good animal source foods. I thank you.
Many thanks, Professor Liliwi. Dr. Jude Capper, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be presenting my thoughts to you today. And I'd just like to say what an amazing opening 5 minutes that was. I was nodding and smiling all the way through, going, wow, we're so on the same page, even though I'm in Oxfordshire in England, far, far away. So I come at this topic as an academic, as a researcher, as a livestock sustainability consultant, and as of last week, as a professor of sustainable beef and sheep systems based in the UK. So I wear various hats and have various opinions on this, having worked in it for the last 15 years. But to give you my vision of the role of livestock in sustainable food systems, in terms of sustainability, when I think about it, it's about that balance. So we've got to balance economic viability, environmental responsibility, and social acceptability. And it's very tempting to try and put them into their own individual little boxes, but there are so many interconnections. So these are separate topics, but in reality, they're very, very interdependent. And I think it's clear, regardless of our food choices, regardless of our lifestyle choices, regardless of where we're based in the world, it's clear that animal source foods, i.e. milk, meat and eggs, provide us with high quality food. It's eminently digestible, it contains essential nutrients. And I think there's no doubt that future food systems will see livestock playing a key role. And yet we must always instigate change. You know, we can't go with the status quo. We can't assume we can just keep doing the same things forever and ever. We're going to see more people on the planet. We're going to see a far greater demand for animal source foods if the projections that we've seen up until this point show to be accurate. But we've only got one planet and we've only got so much land and so many resources. So I'm going to talk about a couple of factors, primarily the economic and the environmental, but as I say, they're so interconnected to the social that I'm not really going to try to separate them out. So I'm in the developed world at the moment, as I say, I'm in Oxfordshire, England, and certainly in here and in most of the higher income countries, we need to value our food more. You know, currently we spend a far lower proportion of our total income on food than we've ever done before in history. It's essentially become cheap. And if we expect farmers to improve, to make the improvements that we want to see in terms of animal health, in terms of welfare, management, looking after the environment, looking after the social community, then they need to be paid a fair price. And we would expect that in any other business. So we've got to have that in place. And perhaps in the developed world, and I say perhaps, we need to adopt the position that's been put out, for example, by the British Veterinary Association, in that we need to eat less but better. And we need to value animal source foods as our grandparents and our great-grandparents did. But at the same time, we've got to be very careful that we don't make a choice for the whole world, particularly those who don't have the same amount of privilege and income as we do. And we've got a huge challenge both in the developed world and in the lower and middle income countries in keeping animal source foods affordable to everybody. And it's very clear, and we've heard earlier, that infants under the age of 24 months simply don't get their recommended quantities of milk, meat and eggs every single day. And when we look at the science and we look at intervention studies, there's been an awful lot of work showing that if we supplement school children with extra meat, extra milk, then they show improvements in terms of concentration, in terms of behavior, in terms of learning, simply from having that better protein and being able to learn better. And there's an awful lot of case studies out there where people have gone on to have far better careers, far better jobs, simply because their parents, for example, had livestock. From an environmental point of view, we've got a very clear and very obvious focus on greenhouse gas emissions, but we have so much diversity across the world in terms of systems, in terms of animals, in terms of farms. There is no one dairy farm or beef farm. There's so much diversity that trying to attribute a carbon footprint to milk or meat or eggs is almost impossible. And we need to do everything better, from genetics to management, nutrition to health. If, as a consultant, I could simply do one thing, it would be to improve animal health and disease all across the world. I'm sure we've all heard the quote that 20% of animal protein is lost simply because of diseases for which we already have treatments and cures. But if we take African swine fever as an example, the outbreak where 150 million pigs died, if those pigs hadn't died and had entered the human food chain, they could have supplied 824 million people with their annual pork demand. And the greenhouse gas emissions invested in rearing those pigs that then did die were equal to the annual emissions from 25 million cars. So we need to improve animal health, animal welfare going forwards. And as I say, we can't just use one metric. We can't simply look at carbon footprint. If we do that, for example, if we look at a smallholder dairy farm in Kenya compared to a 10,000 cow operation in the USA, for example, the intensive dairy operation will very obviously have a far lower carbon footprint per kilo or per litre of milk. But which of those has the greater overall environmental impact? Which of those competes more in terms of land for human food compared to animal feed, as was touched on earlier? Ruminants have a massive and really important role in converting those foods and forages and using that pasture land where we can't grow anything else at all and converting it into high quality milk and meat every day. So we've got to take a wider view. It isn't simply about carbon. We've got to change the metric to recognise the true value of a cow, whether she's in a large operation in the developed world or in a smallholder operation in a lower income country. Because we've got to think about it in terms of draft power, in terms of the effects of livestock on soil structure and fertility, on water retention, wildlife and ecosystem services, but also from an economic and social point of view. If we have livestock, particularly in many of the smallholder and backyard type operations, we can improve income, nutritional health, provide education and better jobs. We can even reduce domestic violence, both to men and women, through having that better livelihood. So overall, we've got to take a One Health approach. We've got to balance that circularity, that circle of life that we've seen for centuries and centuries, and that's always existed between plants and animals and the soil. And if we take livestock out of that, we can't complete that circle. So when I think about livestock, I think about the word live, live, and to live. Livestock allow farmers to make a living, and they allow all of us, whether humans, animals, or plants, to have a life. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Dr. Capper. Chef Daniel Kaplan, welcome. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Well, as you all know, I'm a chef, Daniel Kaplan, from Bogota, Colombia. I work for a large restaurant group here called the Takami Restaurant Group. I am also a member of the Chef's Manifesto, which is taking a big part in everything that we're doing. First of all, it's really an honor for me to be here. I'm not used to speaking in front of so many people. I'm more used to working in the kitchen. But I've been working with livestock, especially cattle, for the last 10 years. And it's become a really important thing in my life, not just because of it's what I live from, but I've learned the importance of livestock when it comes to the environment. I've learned how important it is for us to be able to source our food and know where it's coming from. This is something that the pandemic has also helped us in. If there's anything good from this pandemic, it has really helped us to be more specific when it comes to sourcing our food. I've heard of all these different vegan and vegetarian options that have been coming out, which is fine. That's very important when it comes to diversity. But what's more important is for us to know where these products are coming from. Us chefs have to start investigating more, have to start to learn where all this product comes from, and to learn the impact that we can have when it comes to diversifying our menus. We have to become a means of communication for all these farmers. We have to become part of that food chain. We have to be able to communicate and help our farmers so people understand where all this is coming from. Also, I've become quite a protein advocate because, like as one of the speakers said before, we need the nutritional value. The nutritional value from protein is not going to come from different sources, at least not in the amounts that we need. Coming from a country like Colombia, where farming has become quite difficult, has become because of deforestation, we've had problems with drug dealers, and this really has to be a way for us to communicate all these problems. I'm sorry if I've become a little bit nervous, but this was the first time that I'm speaking about this. But it really comes to the importance of being able to know where our product comes from. That to me is the most important thing. Also, when it comes to sustainability and zero food waste, we as chefs have to be sure that when we're using livestock, whether it's cattle, chicken, pork, that we really use the nose to tail, that we use the entire animal in order to respect the animal itself. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Chef Kaplan. will continue with the program. And now I pass it on to Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Excellent. Thank you, Eduardo. And thank you all the speakers for that, really wonderful and inspiring talk. I think it really shows the interconnectedness, the complexities, and the overall kind of things that we need to think about. Everything, that context matters. We have everything from Lindiwe's grandmother and her farm, all the way up to where Jude is living, as she talked about, and where Daniel was talking about with Chef's Works. I think that really sets up well for a really diverse discussion about the real complexity that we're in, the challenges that we're dealing with. Complex problems deal for inclusive solutions. So in these discussion groups, we really want to provide a space, inclusive space for you to discuss the issues around specific topics. We do want to seek some consensus, but also, allow and respect the diverse opinions to be here. So there will be just tough discussions, as Shirley mentioned in the beginning. And we want to identify a desired scenario by 2030 and some key outcomes and actions by then. So we really do want to have a diverse discussion, but we do want to have some actions, some solutions and practical ways forward. Some of the principles for discussion, and I think it's really important we use something called active listening. Make sure that we listen. We don't just put in our ideas first, but ask the question, why did someone say something? What are they really thinking? Probe. Again, recognize complexity. Wicked problems, mean no magic bullet solutions or binary solutions. It's not either or, but it's how do we deal with these kind of complex questions? We want to identify, as I said, practical actions and really make sure that you do speak up during the discussion. I know within an hour in a discussion group of 8-9 people, some people will not speak, but really speak up. Your contribution is really essential for us to develop robust solutions. I'm not going to go through
I think we may unfortunately have lost
everybody. I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're back, Michael.
I think I'm back.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, great. That was lucky. Okay, here's my, I think sharing my screen again. Great, and so for the format for this conversation, we're going to talk, everyone's been broken up into a single topic. We have kind of 4 main points, but you'll have a really kind of broad discussion that will go down. And then everything will be captured on a Google Sheet. So we will try to capture the discussion. We have rapporteurs back there. And then we'll have a brief chat back after the plenary. So we won't report back, but everything will be captured. We won't report that back, but we'll have an interactive kind of plenary reflection. And then just to make sure everyone will have a facilitator and rapporteur, and they'll introduce themselves in the beginning. I'm not going to go through this. There's 5 discussion topics related to the 5 questions in the survey. Each group will tackle one of those questions. And there's 4 things that we want to consider. What is the consensus? What are some game-changing actions in the next 3 years? How will we measure these? And then again, what are some critical divergences in opinion that we want to document? And again, this will be documented on a Google Sheet, so we can have that for later on. And with that, I'd like to get everyone into the dialogue. So if we can beam everybody into their group, that would be great. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope everyone had a really good discussion. We're now going to come back and really synthesize and distill some of the key issues and points of divergence, and we're really going to make this a bit interactive. Again, all the notes and action points from the discussions have actually been taken, as you know, as you saw in your groups, have been documented. We'll discuss how we go about preparing the report a bit later. But we're not going to go repeat those right now, but we really want to get different people's views and viewpoints. And we're going to start using the chat box. So please put your comments and questions into the chat box. So the instructions is please please make sure you write your answer, but don't press enter right away. Press enter when I say go. And you can write in English, Spanish, or French. It's no problem. We'll be able to read those as well. So this is an opportunity for you to reflect yourself and take some time for that. So the first question is, what is your main takeaway or insight from the discussion group? I'll give you 15 more seconds. And Peter, if you can put the question into the chat, that would be good. We'll give you 10 more seconds, put it in, and when I say press enter, hit enter, and we'll see what people say. Okay, hit enter, please. Oh, we got great. Eduardo, if you see anything, I'm just looking through this. Need to communicate better with consumers. A nuanced debate. Livestock can complement nature. Need to balance in debates. So, again, this issue of more nuance. How do we tackle the hard issues like Fabrice is saying when livestock is part of the problem? What do we do? Both production and consumption. So in industrial areas where people are eating too much and it's too intensified, it's too industrial, what do we do? The tough questions. Changing the narrative for livestock and environment, how do we do that? Anyone seeing anything else that they see that struck them? Starting with the consumers comes out quite a bit, which is quite interesting. Eduardo, do you see anything? Was there anything in Spanish that came out?
Not yet, Michael.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, great. So let's go to the next question, which is, what is an action we need to take for livestock and food systems? So was there any real action, any action that came out in your working group that we really need to take for livestock and food systems? Again, don't press return now. Take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, write it down. Hopefully my internet will stay up. It's been a bit spotty here in Addis today. Five more seconds. Okay, hit enter. What's in action? Education and policy, reward positive behaviors, multi-stakeholder initiatives. More One Health, let's see. Natural livestock farming for healthy food. So again, livestock is part and parcel of the food system and farming system, not just separated. Integrating livestock into farms, widen the tent, engage those with different views, fight compromises and trade-offs. So again, this, need to make, this practical action is how do we make sure that livestock is embedded in the environment and into climate solutions. Better school education, some really interesting things coming up. Great, let's see where more things are coming in, I see as we go. Bring farmers to the center. Yes, we need to get people like Lindiwe's grandmother in there and others, all types of farmers. Again, I think that came up as well. Stop being polarized in a polarized world. Get the private sector in, excellent. We need to talk about the hows, not the either or the or. Communication on the role for our farmers, excellent. So let's do one more. What is one memorable quote you remember from a participant? Don't name them because we said we wouldn't share people's names. Just share the individual, just share the quote or something that you heard that really struck you, that you liked. We have something in anything, is there anything that you saw, Eduardo, in Spanish or in?
No, Michael.
Okay. It's not the cow, it's the how, Fabrice. That's very nice. Okay, so again, let's have the quotes, put them in, and then I will tell you when to. People are starting to put them in. Okay, you can put them in now and enter if you haven't hit enter yet. We're not going to. Let's see. Yeah, livestock is the cornerstone of many rural societies, minimum diet diversity, diversified diets, bring farmers to the center. It's the cow, not the how. I really like that one. It's very good. Who likes kale anyways? Okay, thanks, Fabrice. This is great, yeah.
Someone said something about you're not going to get that protein from kale.
Right. Gotta get those avocados going. Yeah, there's so many. Again, I like kale, Isabel said, and she likes her milk too, we know. More livestock products for the poor. Not all our food systems are broken. If someone wants to just jump in and say something like Fabrice did, that was very nice. My cow is a vegan, that's great. That's true. Excellent. This is very, very interesting. Some nice reflections here. And again, this gives us really a kind of a real kind of flavor of what's been said and discussed and everything. This is really interesting. Excellent. We have some French, I think. And also, like Alan said, it's not all that bad. Not all our food systems are broken and things have really advanced. I always like one of the great quotes, I think, that Shakuntala, who is the World Food Prize laureate, just said, we have to move away from thinking about, thanks, Fabrice. We need to think about, moving away from feeding the world. It's not that we're feeding people, but how do we nourish the world? And, again, embrace the diversity. It's not just crops and commodities, but it's really about, getting a nourished and diverse diet. Okay, so for the rapporteurs, anybody who was a rapporteur and taking some notes, we want to hear from you and from some of the groups. Your converging position on your question. Was there any convergence on your question or area? Again, don't put it in right now. Let's wait. Converging positions. Thank you, Peter. Wait 10 seconds. Okay, everybody hit enter now. Rebalance policies, the need for more clarity over the role of meat, milk, and eggs, and obesity. Is it a causation or correlation? More balanced discussion. One Health practical approach on the ground. So it's really about this balancing we see. We see a lot about balancing, a lot about, bringing a little bit more nuance into the debate. There was a lot of convergence around that, a lot of convergence about the importance of livestock, it looks like, as well. Diversity is the key. Excellent. Yeah, and Shakuntala definitely is the real food system hero. And she started out as a vet, if I understand correctly, and working in livestock related issues in Denmark. She did her PhD on cattle, if I understood correctly. Okay, let's go to another one, a key minority or diverging view on your question or position. Again, don't type it, don't hit enter yet, but just type it in. We'll give you 10 more, about 10 or 15 seconds.
Michael, one Spanish comment here is the consumption of animal food source is unequal in the world.
Mm-hmm. Is unequal in the world, yeah? Okay. Yeah, hit enter now. Wolf said, not that much diverging views. To eat or not to eat meat? That is the question nowadays. I don't know if Shakespeare would have said that, but we had no diverging views. That's interesting. So I wonder, we did notice that a lot of the non-livestock people were not able to make it. So maybe we didn't get so many diverse views. What is a healthy diet? Do not demonize a single food product. Some unhappy about tackling overconsumption and where it occurs, but balance requires looking at over and under.
Michael, there is a Spanish comment here. Until what point the synthetic protein could be an alternative to reduce the pressure on production systems over the resources, over natural resources?
Great. Excellent. If anyone wants to comment, they're welcome to open up their mics and say something if they want to about the divergence. No.
I think there's some great comments here on classifying a food as healthy or unhealthy, and I agree this has been a real challenge. And meat is a great example that there is healthy consumption of meat and there is unhealthy consumption of meat, but there is no such thing as meat being unhealthy or healthy. And that's I think that's something we're going to need to be able to help the global community work its way out of, and it's a major challenge.
Okay, thank you, Fabrice. Yeah, I mean, again, it's is there a Cali that is unhealthy? Okay, thanks, Isabel. Yeah, no, and I think this is a good point. I remember seeing a great video of steak over the last 50 years where you're supposed to eat it or not eat it, supposed to eat it or not supposed to eat it. And, I think it really does come back to this balance as we all hear. Okay, I think we have one more. Yeah. What is one outcome we want for the livestock sector? So what was one outcome that was really discussed in your group? And again, let's wait before you hit return. Too many carrots make you ill, okay? Oh, there we go. And how much kale could a sheep eat, Alan, until it was too toxic? Okay, remember to put your quite a lot, okay? Yeah, this is becoming a kale dialogue. Great, it's good to see some humor here as well. I think that's good. So what was one outcome? Everyone hit return right now. Okay, it's great when you put the group too, that's very good. Less quantity, more quality. Consumers are able to make informed choices, more information, understanding, metrics, a scalable business model like Ethio Chicken. Interesting. Fairness across the value chain in terms of income, including consumers, integration regionally, more mixed multi-benefit crop livestock systems, supply chain increase efficiencies, less loss, less waste. I think that's for all crops and animals, not just for livestock. Healthy, more productive and well cared for animals. I think that's really important. And it's not just the humane perspective, but also the economic from there as well. Consumers are able to make informed choices. This is great. Some really actionable outcomes here. The role of livestock in achieving a balanced and varied diet. Excellent. Great. As we start doing that, please get on to Menti as well. And we want to see how your position might have changed. And the Menti code is, I'm just going to put it in right now so people can get that in there. And we're going to move to that very quickly. So let's see if there's anything. Convergence, the need for change, but very different changes across the world. Okay. Yeah, it's very contextual, healthy livestock and healthy people in the world. I think it's a bimutual relationship there. It's if livestock are healthy, people will be healthy, hopefully too. Okay, great. So we're going to move on. Is there anything else? Eduardo, do you see anything? Anyone have any other comments, thoughts they want to see?
Nothing else from my side.
I think we have one more question, actually. So we have the 2030 question, and then we have the final question, sorry about that, is the most pressing action needed to achieve this outcome. So if you had an outcome, what was the action that was going to actually make that happen, particularly in the next couple of years? So if the rapporteurs can put that one in, most pressing action. Give you 10 seconds. Others can start to move to the Menti as well. Get your Menti up and running, and you can use the code that was just put up. Okay, click. You can press enter now. Let's see what were some of the pressing actions. Get farmers to the center of the food systems debate. Only 2% of ODA has been directed towards livestock. So do we need more? Secure land rights, anti-dumping, champions, small, medium farmers, pastoralists, great. Very important that land rights comes up. Pastoralists and others, you know, you need land for that, and they need secure access to that land. Again, I think that's really interesting. We see a lot about farmers and getting farmers represented at the table as well. Sensitize livestock farmers to care about the welfare of the livestock environment and thus their health. Okay, maybe we need to make some incentives for that as well. Improve food efficiency through technological transfer and behavior change campaigns. Yes, we need to change people's behavior. There's something. Go ahead, Eduardo.
There is the comment from the Spanish group, change the approach to technological change, balancing better the discussion over the new technologies with the better use of the traditional technologies.
Great. Excellent. Fabrice brings up a very good point here. There are entry points for engaging in livestock in the different action tracks and solution areas, solutions, game-changing solutions and action areas. So please do look for those. He just mentioned the regenerative livestock in action track 3, and there's a number. There's something on pastoralists and rangelands. There's a number of things that are emerging within the action areas and action tracks that are really important. Great. Embrace the diversity of production systems. All can contribute to sustainable development goals. Excellent. So again, we see this diversity, diverse farming systems, bringing up farmers to the head, consumers getting involved, changing behavior. That's great. So this was excellent. I think this was a great kind of summary of what went on. A lot of people put in some great comments. And yeah, we're going to go to the Menti now, and I'm going to bring up my screen. So here is the link again, and let's everybody move to the Menti. We'll start to see how many we get. I'll put that up on my screen right now. Here we go. Excellent. So here we see again, have things moved? We see a lot higher rates. We saw a little bit more diversity of pitmen. It seems like people's attitudes have changed in these 5 question areas. So a lot more at the higher levels, a lot less towards the strongly disagree. How many do we have right now? Let's see. So we have 18 people who have responded. Let's get a couple more in. If we
can you post the code again? Sorry, you've been using the chat so well that the code is somewhere in the 500 chat messages.
Okay, here you go. I did it again. Yeah, there it goes. Thank you.
On the top of the slide.
Yeah. Thank you, Shirley, for stating that. I forgot about that. Excellent. Let's see if we can get it up to, we have 79 people left. Let's see if we can get it up to at least 30 or 40. We had a little bit over half the last time. Here people are starting to move up. Again, good to see. So yeah, we start to see, if you start to look where we are on the overall line, you can kind of see where we are. So again, a higher level towards the agreement side of things. for the first one, you know, the benefits of livestock. I think people all see the benefits of livestock if it's done well. How to, you know, to what extent can changes to the consumption of livestock-derived foods help the transition to healthy diets for all? Quite a few, again, a little bit more towards the middle in this one, very interesting. We have, again, strong agreement here about to what extent livestock, changes in livestock keeping ownership in businesses can help advance equitable livelihoods and achieve healthy diets. Let's see here. To what extent can changes to livestock systems benefit nature and ecosystems and help us adapt to or mitigate climate change? Again, still some people disagreeing, a lot more in the middle, still high levels at the lower level. That's interesting. And then, you know, in terms of disaster, manage, respond, human and associated diseases and threats, high levels here, again, a lot more people moving over to the middle. So quite interesting. I think we've quite a few people now here. That's 41, so we're over the 50% mark. Excellent. I think with that, Eduardo, I'll hand it over to you and I'll bring up the follow-up actions right now. So thank you again, everybody, and over to you, Eduardo.
Many thanks, Michael. We are going to communicate to you what are the follow-up actions that we are planning. Several important actions are now on our desks. We will take the results of this activity, of this event, and make an official report to the Food System Summit and into member states dialogues. And we will share it with you because we would like to get your feedback. Please share it in your networks and send us feedback, because these results will also inform very important actions in the global agenda for sustainable livestock, the setting of priorities for the next 3 years, also for one CGIAR, FAO, and ILRI. We will also continue with the blog posts. As you have seen, we have already done that for this dialogue. And please follow up and contribute to the different initiatives like Why Livestock Matter, and also in any other blog post or activity that you may be involved. Please let us know if you get feedback that could be useful for us. So this is the summary of the follow-up actions. I think we can now get into almost the closing of the activity. But before going into the closing, we have a very important reflection from Alvin Kopse, Deputy Assistant Director General from the Federal Office for Agriculture in Switzerland. He will reflect on diversity, change, and multi-stakeholder approaches. We really thank you, Alvin, for being here, for the support of Switzerland in everything we do in the global agenda, and please go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduardo, for these kind words of introduction, and certainly for the opportunity that I can share some thoughts on the importance of diversity, change, and multi-stakeholder approaches for the way that lays ahead of us. As you know, the UN Secretary General recognized the important role that food systems play for the achievement of the Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And he announced that he would convene a food system summit later this year. It's in September. The summit aims to bring players from different horizons together to accelerate the progress towards the change we need to see for a sustainable future. It wants to generate significant action and identify game-changing solutions that support transformation towards sustainable food systems. Livestock and animal-sourced foods are important parts of today's food systems, and they will continue to play a substantial part in tomorrow's systems as well. But as we discussed during this dialogue today, livestock systems need to participate in the transformation towards more sustainability. So what are some of the important elements that will make the transformation of the livestock sector a success? I can think of the following 3 principles of engagement, as I would like to call them. So first, the acknowledgement that livestock is not only a contributor to the challenges the planet and societies face today, but that is also an important part of the solution. Without livestock, the world would be poorer in terms of nutrition, culture, and assets. But we need to find a new business as usual in how we manage livestock and consume animal-sourced foods. Second, the acknowledgement that there is simply no one-fits-all solution, as the livestock sector is too diverse and operates in so many different environments. Having said this, it is also clear that all livestock systems in all regions and of all different shapes and sizes will need to change. Diversity should not become an excuse to stand still. And third, the acknowledgement that no actor can do it alone. We need the different stakeholders to work together in an alliance or a coalition to improve and transform the sector. We need investors, researchers, farmers, both small and big, supply chain actors, governments, and civil society to collaborate. However, this is not enough. The stakeholders of the sector need to enter into a dialogue with actors outside the sector to listen, to learn, and to explain. This will not only help to identify future solutions, but also strengthen mutual understanding and finally, a stronger anchorage of a sustainable livestock sector in society, because livestock will not just walk away. Switzerland has long been a supporter of sustainable livestock and multi-stakeholder partnerships. We have supported the global agenda on sustainable livestock since its inception. I believe that GASL can play an important part, not only into preparation of the UN Food System Summit, something we did today, but certainly also in the implementation of the relevant game-changing solutions post-summit, if GASL continues to apply the 3 outlined principles of engagement. And I think the dialogue of today was certainly a good example of such an engagement, although if I look through the list of participants, there were fewer non-livestock actors than we would have hoped for. Thank you.
Many thanks, Alvin. Thank you for this reflection that really highlights the importance of the multi-stakeholder approach. We are really very pleased to get to the closing of this independent dialogue, and we hope that it's been of important benefits for you and for the community. We are now going to give the floor to Dale Cramond for closing remarks. Dale is Agriculture Inspector from the Irish Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. And we really thank you for being here, Dale. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Coming last was obviously is always challenging to follow Alwyn. But look, I'll just try to sum up, I suppose, some of the key messages that came up in the discussion today, and also maybe just some broader messages around like where we need to go. Like I think we didn't discuss, you know, food waste, you know, in a very specific way today, and it's not an issue that's, you know, pertinent alone to the livestock sector, but clearly it is a key issue. It's the first thing we need to do. We need to reduce our food waste, you know, as we work towards 2050 and feeding the planet of 10 billion people. I think, you know, we cannot shy away from the issue of reduced meat consumption in Western economies, you know, where we're consuming meat above nutritional guidelines. We shouldn't shy away from that message. And I think we need to follow the science around nutritional guidelines. And by reducing meat consumption in certain parts of the world, it's going to, you know, create opportunities, hopefully, in the emerging middle classes in Africa and Asia, you know, in the years ahead. We're going to need all sources of food, so the idea that we can kind of, transition away from meat consumption is just not credible. So I think that's the first thing we really need to say. But we also, taking on board that, we also then need to climate-proof our livestock production systems. We have to acknowledge that they do produce methane and they do contribute to nitrous oxide, which are incredibly powerful greenhouse gases. So we need to look at the technologies that are available there, to us through the research community that are being researched at the moment, whether it's a methane vaccine, whether it's feed additives, whether it's breeding for improved efficiency. We can probably reduce methane emissions in livestock systems by 1% a year. So, over the next 15 years, if we were to say we were to achieve a 15% reduction by breeding alone, it would make it a very significant, contribution, to what we need to do. If we can get methane falling by about 0.3% a year, our scientists will tell us that, livestock systems are not contributing to any additional global warming. That's an incredibly powerful statement. And it's something that we need to communicate better, to our consumers. One of the frustrations I do find sometimes in Ireland is that, there's an assumption there that we can simply diversify away from these systems and do something different with our land. We all know that that's not possible, that the diversification options are simply not there in some regards. I spent 4 years in the United States as agricultural attaché in Washington, DC, and had the great pleasure of traveling all over the US. And I saw, millions of hectares of land that's just simply not suitable for growing vegetables, for example. And it's the same in all our countries. So look, I really don't think it's credible that, certain people sit in an ivory tower and kind of lecture us about our food systems, particularly, in developing countries, in Africa, where livestock are incredibly important. We need to recognize this, and look to improve those systems rather than talking about, getting rid of them. I'm a farmer's son, and, I'm passionate about, agriculture, the environment and food production. And I deliberately said I put environment there in the middle because it does need to be central, to what we do, what we do kind of globally. Ireland has just launched its draft report for its next agri-food strategy for the next 10 years. And it's the first time we've taken a food systems approach. So we're taking health, environment, the economic sustainability of agriculture, and we're bringing everything together, in a food systems approach. I think we're one of the first countries to do this. So there certainly may be learnings there, for other countries. And clearly for us, the timing of this is important as we lead into the UN Food Summit, later this year. We heard today about communicating with consumers. It's key. There's no point in us talking to ourselves. I think we're disappointed a little bit maybe that we didn't have more non-livestock, people on the call today. We have to figure out a way, to engage with them better, and share our message, because I think we probably will find some common ground. I believe we can and we will. And there's just too much misinformation out there at the moment, which makes that, difficult. But look, ultimately, like with the support of the various agencies like FAO, like the great work GASL-ILRI is doing, ILRI, all the fantastic organizations are out there. I think, common sense will prevail, and ultimately livestock will prevail for generations to come. But complacency is not an option. We really need to work at this together, over the years ahead. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Dale. Many thanks. Now over to Shirley Tarawali, our chair in GASL, and for closing words. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all. I hope you've all had rich and fruitful deliberations from the chat. It certainly looks like there's been a lot of creative juices flowing. I just want to make a couple of points in closing. Firstly, to assure you that, as Eduardo said, we'll be preparing a report. We share that. There'll be blog posts, social media continuing. Please use these yourself as well. And we'll try and make sure that we do stay engaged and keep you in this conversation, as well as using these, as Eduardo said, for different evolving plans of ourselves and those of you joining and your organizations as well. Finally, I need to really thank every one of you for your time and engagement. I do hope you found it worthwhile. Sorry for some that it was really early in the morning. We saw one of our colleagues in his suit at 5 a.m. But for some, it was very late and people were ready to go to bed. Thank you for those for whom it was a bit inconvenient to join us. And many, many thanks for the teams at FAO, ILRI, GASL, other partners who've supported logistics, facilitation, reporting, interpretation, and all the many, many other behind the scenes activities that made today's sessions work really seamlessly. Thank you all. I hope it was worthwhile. Do stay safe and do stay engaged. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Aaron.
Many thanks, everybody. Glad to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Eduardo, Shirley, and colleagues.
Thank
you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're going to share I did put earlier on the Namakulo's poem, and we're just going to share that quickly as we leave. So if people want to listen to that again.
For all to benefit without living in the communities that I come from. So I will read my poem called I Am Your Food System for You to Transform. This poem was written in honor of the current ongoing UN Food Systems Summit, specifically because it will require different stakeholders to do their part for our food systems to transform in such a way that we can have win-win situations across the entire food system for all to benefit without leaving anyone behind. I am your food system for you to transform. For you to thrive, I must transform. But transforming I am in what direction? And transforming I can in the direction that you take. I am your food system for you to transform. But together you must work. Together, together, together far and wide. So many components I have, so together you must work. I am your food system for you to transform. But together you must work, or different paths my components will take. Different paths to no good I will transform. I am your food system for you to transform. Will humanity fight one another? Will humanity together transform me? What direction together for planet and humanity to save? I am your food system for you to transform. Transform for affordable food, nutritious and safe. Transform for nutrition and health. Transform for humanity and earth to serve. I am your food system for you to transform. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great.
My
Thank
name
you,
is
Michael. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao, Eduardo. Bye-bye, Shirley.
See you later.